Hi everyone, my name's Anthony Cummins and welcome to this continuing series on Taoism. So where are we up to at the moment? Right, we're just hitting classical Taoism. So let's do a quick overview of classical Taoism. Now from about 550 to about 200 BC in China, there's this idea of a sort of flourishing of intellectual ideas and intellectual movements around China. Now, what we have to remember is that Taoism isn't a solid thing here, and Taoism isn't the only thing that's going on. There's lots and lots of schools going on. This period became known as the 100 schools period. Now we have to be careful here because there's not 100 schools, there's about 10. But the point is that these 10 schools or so have different branches and structures. This person, dividing to that side, and they, even within inside each other, they fight. So basically you've got this idea of 10 major schools all bursting out with lots of branches, and it seems like there's hundreds of different schools going on. Now we'll go through the schools next time, but we'll just do an overview here. So when you're thinking of classical Taoism, which is Lao Tzu, which is the philosophy, not the religious side. Remember, the religion and the classical came up together. So if you're thinking about the classical side, the philosophy of it, you're not looking at a solid school with foundations. You're looking at a time period with scattered intellectuals writing various texts that are later brought together, or they interact with each other and form Taoism itself. They don't go around saying we are in the Taoism. Basically they say they are using the way, or they're following this classical philosophy, if you like. Now let's set this up. In 770 BC, there's the Chao dynasty. Now the northern barbarians run down through the fields, and they start slaughtering everyone, and they get into the basically the royal court and kill the king, and that then crushes or almost destabilizes the country, because the Chao dynasty have to go across to the east, and they sit there and then form a new government there, if you like, or form a new base. But what that means is the country is like, well, actually the king can be killed, that we shouldn't pay them our tributes, let's disconnect from them. And what happens is lots of different factions start to form, and that becomes the Warring States period. Now, of course, in Japan, they take that name for the period between 1410 to 1450 up to 1600. It becomes the same kanji, Warring States period, or country at war. Now, this is much before. This is BC in China. So around these dates in China, from 770 onwards, you start to get destabilization of the country, and then you hit into the Warring States period when other people start ramping up. But what happens is most people want to go back to a state of stability. So we get lots and lots of sort of wise old men, if you like, or scholars, or people of paper and pens and all that, running around the country saying, right, well, we think it should be this way, and we think it should be this way, and we should rule this way. And they're all going around trying to find jobs, going to courts of different warlords with their documents, writing documents to warlords about how to run their country and things like that. And this includes, of course, Lao Tzu is in this period where he writes his stuff down. With a famous bit where he's on the ox, and before he leaves he's like, I can't be bothered anymore, everybody's going nuts. He allegedly writes it down as get past the gatekeeper. So we're in that period here when we're in a bit of turmoil. The country's looking for stability, and all the scholars of the day are pretty much going around and saying, well, we should do it this way, we should do it that way. And that is where this philosophy of rule, this philosophy ideas starts to take form. Now the Warring States period is actually from the 400s up to the 200s, so there's a few centuries there of people going to war, and the era before that is where it all starts to destabilise and fracture, and families become more powerful, and eventually everybody goes to war. So what this means is, at one hand, so far we've got the religious Taoism where people are practicing star worship and they've got lots of specific rituals going on, but you've also got the philosophical thinkers who are thinking about how to run the country. We class this all as Taoism now, from the religious and the classical, and there are other schools outside of that deal with, like Confucianism, that deals with other types, because at the same time Confucianism is going around with their sub-schools. And again, I'll get to that next time. We'll go into the 10 schools next time and go through what each one does. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Keep up to date with the series. Taoism is very interesting. I hope you're appreciating a bit of background knowledge on it, and I'll see you next time.